The greatest strategic failure is believing that a big sale requires a big pitch, this massive, high-pressure effort to convince a skeptical buyer. But what if that's completely backward? What if the entire sales battle is won not at the end of some long, painful funnel, but right at the very beginning? Today, we're going to dive into a totally different way of thinking about growth, one that isn't about pushing, but about pulling. It's about building a system that turns your happiest customers into your most powerful automated growth engine. Just think about all the energy and money we pour into that large pitch. We build these elaborate marketing campaigns, we train sales teams on complex closing techniques, all of it designed to overcome a prospect's natural skepticism. This quote, it just stops you in your tracks, right? It makes you question that entire effort. It suggests that if you need a huge pitch, you've already lost. You're fighting the battle on the wrong turf at the wrong time. And this is the question that changes everything. What if, instead of fighting for that one giant, high-stakes yes at the end, the real goal was to build a machine that just effortlessly churns out a constant stream of tiny, easy yeses? An initial yes to trying your product, which leads to the product delivering a yes on its promise, which leads to that moment of delight. This isn't just a change in philosophy. It's a blueprint for a much smarter, more sustainable growth machine. Okay, so to really get why this new model is so powerful, we first have to talk about why the old way is just broken. We need to diagnose the deep structural cracks in the traditional approach to getting new customers, because it's not just inefficient anymore. It's becoming a real threat to growth. And here's the brutal reality of it. We are in a customer acquisition cost crisis, a CAC crisis. For years, the playbook was simple, right? If you wanted to grow, you just bought customers. You poured money into Google, Facebook, you filled the top of your funnel. But that era is pretty much over. The channels are saturated, the costs are through the roof, and frankly, customers are just tired of the noise. Relying on paid ads today is like trying to fill a leaky bucket with a bottle of water that gets more expensive every single day. You just can't win that race. So it really comes down to a difference in architecture. On the left, you've got the classic linear funnel. It's a model based on force. You spend money to push people through these stages, and at every single step, you lose people. It constantly needs more expensive fuel, more ad spend, just to keep going. But on the right, we have the Loyalty Flywheel. And this thing, it's not a funnel, it's more like a perpetual motion machine. It's a closed loop that pulls customers in, delights them, and then uses their success as the energy to pull in the next wave of customers. It doesn't just burn fuel, it creates its own. So that brings us to the solution. The Loyalty Flywheel isn't just some clever marketing campaign or a referral program you tack on at the end. It is a complete, integrated system for growth. It's a fundamental shift from renting people's attention with ads to earning their advocacy by being excellent. And the idea at the heart of it is actually really simple. You pinpoint the exact moment a customer gets a real, meaningful win with your product, that instant of genuine success. And then you build a system to capture that energy and turn it directly into momentum for getting new customers. You stop seeing customer success as just a way to keep people around, and you start seeing it for what it is, your best, most cost-effective way to grow. All right, so how does this machine actually work? What are the specific gears inside that turn a feeling like customer satisfaction into a tangible result, like a new sign-up? Let's pop the hood and deconstruct this engine piece by piece. The flywheel spins through 3 distinct connected stages. First, there's delight. And this is critical. It's not some vague, happy feeling. It's a specific, measurable event where a customer achieves the exact outcome they hired your product for. Second, the automated ask. The moment your system confirms that delight, an automated, super low-friction request is triggered. And third, acquisition. That ask turns into a referral, bringing a new user into your world who starts not with skepticism, but with trust they've borrowed from their friend. Now, this is where it gets really powerful. Let's talk about the success signal. This is the spark plug for the whole engine, and it's the key to making this whole thing work at scale. A success signal isn't a guess. It's a data-driven trigger that tells your system with a high degree of confidence that a user just had a peak value moment and is now psychologically primed to share that good experience. So what do these signals actually look like? Well, they can be really explicit, like a customer giving you a 9 or 10 on a Net Promoter Score survey. That's a direct signal they're ready to advocate. But often, the best signals are behavioral. It could be them hitting your product's magic number. Think about Dropbox syncing its first file across 2 devices, or Slack sending its 2000 team message. It might be the consistent use of a high-value premium feature. The key is to find these signals in your data because they are the foundation of the entire system. Okay, so once that signal fires, the next piece of the machine kicks in, the Automated Reciprocity Ask. And this is the linchpin of the whole system. This isn't some generic "please refer a friend" banner. It is a very specific, personalized, and incredibly easy request that is deployed automatically at that perfect moment of peak customer happiness. That automation is what makes this a true flywheel, not just a referral program. It's what makes it scalable and reliable. This is what closes the loop and makes the flywheel spin. The automated ask takes a customer's internal feeling of satisfaction, which is really just a data point sitting passively in a dashboard, and turns it into a dynamic, value-creating asset, a brand new customer. You're basically turning delight into a tool for growth, systematically. So we've got the mechanics, the gears of the system. But for this machine to run, it needs fuel, and that fuel is human psychology. Let's dig into the predictable, hardwired human behaviors that make this whole thing go. This whole engine runs on two of the most powerful drivers of human behavior. First step, reciprocity. As people, we are just wired to want to repay favors. So when your product delivers a moment of delight, it saves someone time, it solves a problem, it creates this small, positive psychological debt. That automated ask, delivered at just the right time, doesn't feel like an annoying request. It feels like an easy, welcome way to pay back that good feeling. Second, social proof. The new customer who comes in from a referral isn't responding to an ad. They're acting on a tip from a friend. They get to skip that whole skepticism phase, and they arrive with a level of trust you could never, ever buy with ads. Okay, theory is great, psychology is fascinating. But now, let's get practical. How do you actually build this thing? We're moving from the what and the why to the how, the actionable blueprint for constructing your own loyalty flywheel. So, how do you put this into practice? It really boils down to focusing on three non-negotiable core imperatives. These are the foundational actions you have to take to get your flywheel not just spinning, but accelerating. First, and this is probably the most important foundational work you can do, you have to get absolutely obsessed with defining your success signals. This requires digging deep into your user data. You need to be asking, what actions do our best customers take? What's that aha moment where they really get the value? You have to find those behaviors and turn them into concrete, measurable triggers for your system. Second, you have to engineer the ask to be almost zero friction. This is a design challenge. You need to build the automation when this signal happens, then trigger that message. And the message itself needs to feel personal, not demanding. But most importantly, the action has to be effortless. A single click to share a pre-written email. That's the gold standard. The easier you make it for them to say yes, the more people will. And finally, you have to measure what matters. The goal isn't just tracking the number of referrals. The real goal is to track the quality of those referrals. You have to set up your analytics to compare the lifetime value, the retention rates, the engagement of customers who came from the flywheel versus those you bought with ads. This is the data that proves the financial power of the system and justifies moving budget away from ads and into customer success. And speaking of financial power, what kind of impact are we actually talking about here? It is not small. When you look at the data from companies that do this well, the numbers tell a very, very clear story. And that story is pretty much summarized by this number, 16%. And this is where the business case becomes undeniable. On average, a customer you get through a referral has a 16% higher lifetime value. But it's even deeper than that. This 16% isn't just a number, it's a measure of your competitive advantage. These customers stay longer, they use more of your product, and they are way more likely to become advocates themselves, which just adds more energy back into your flywheel. It creates this powerful loop that your competitors just can't copy by spending more on ads. And this brings us to the ultimate promise of this whole system. This isn't about some clever, temporary growth hack. It's about building a permanent, strategic asset for your business, an engine that, once it's up and running, actually starts to power itself. It all comes down to these two words. The process becomes automated, running 24/7 in the background, turning customer success into customer acquisition without you lifting a finger. And because every new happy customer can create more happy customers, the growth isn't just linear, it's exponential. The flywheel is designed by its very nature to speed up over time. So if there's one single thing to take away from all of this, it's this. The old way of growing is broken because it relies on renting attention, constantly buying expensive fuel to force people through a leaky funnel. The future of growth belongs to those who build a machine that pulls people toward value, a machine so good at making its current customers successful that it generates its own endless supply of high-trust, high-value fuel. That is the loyalty flywheel.